what that is in decibel.
Well, I'm Karthik. I'm one of the committee members of this club, and that's my AKA, Adam, like same as Jim hackname. Not much deep of a hackname. It's like more of a high-IC chat name in the Debian chat rooms. So I use that name. You can find me in the chat rooms there. So today I'm gonna talk about like my own hack life and experience with it, how bad I was, and how good I became. And then we'll be talking about Microsoft and Sybase SQL injection to reverse shell exploit. So I've got some demos as well there. So sit tight. So before university, I was just a random person cracking CD game CDs keys and then posting them online. So yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think you've got Flux running.
Yeah, sorry, got that. You're a Flux user too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. It's good. Now is it okay? Why? So I was just cracking game CD keys. My friends used to shoplift the game CDs all the time, and they used to bring it to me. I was just a techie guy at that time. So I used to change the instructions, like jump on J and Z to conditional jumps. So it's just an easy CD key bypass at the time. Now the trend has been changed. They do code obfuscation, and you can't do readily CD key cracking. Then play with some vulnerable ISS servers, and Microsoft's my target always. So everybody's target. So and sometimes I used to crack my neighbor's Wi-Fi key so that I can use the internet for free. That's all I did. And I didn't do anything regarding to war driving like Brendan did. Maybe you should have used trains like his idea. Better idea. And in my place, before my universities, we had some CDFs. That comes once in 3 years, like security companies, they conduct some open CDFs, so anybody could participate. So that was interesting. This was my earlier life, bad parts of my life, I can say. So the best parts come here. I started my bachelor's in IT and published a paper in IEEE as well. Different, nothing related to security, different technology in regards to Android. So after that, worked in an R&D project for law enforcement agencies. Like they used to track vehicles. My job was to get the geocodes and plot them in a Google API using a Google API interface. So just more of a vehicle tracking system. They don't track every vehicle, just suspicious vehicles. And came to Swinburne, thought of doing a specialization in the case of cybersecurity. I don't want to be always the bad guy. Time to move on to do some good stuff. So came to Swinburne, specialized in masters in security, and then Swinburne Cybersecurity Club, Jim and everyone, friends and participants, co-participants are here. So we had an opportunity for, I especially had an opportunity for around 3 CDFs. People here did more CDFs, but I was less of a participant there because I had to juggle between work and masters and all this stuff. Then worked as a web application penetration tester on a contract basis. It was just a design company. So they were doing this money transfer from one place to another. So they were designing a web application. So I was just pen testing it for just a 3-month contract. And they didn't have much projects in regards to penetration testing. So I got to find another job, obviously. So then I went to Excellence IT. That's where I work in currently. So as a network and system technician, I do day-to-day IT operations, managing the firewalls, managing the network, managing servers. We've got around 60 servers, to be frank, and 200 workstations, and 600 something web hosting clients. So we do manage all of them. And I work in Swinburne as well as a lab instructor for network administration. I work in the research group. And then a couple of certifications like Cisco security specialist, Master of Backup and Disaster Recovery, and Network Associate and Microsoft certifications, and still continuing online study, because if anything comes up in related to security, just sign up, and it's always, you keep updating yourself. That's how you have to be. And quite a huge transition from here to here, like to be frank, from the bad guy to cracking CDs and kind of now the specialist in protecting stuff. So what made the difference was it's all about the interest, and you got to stay, some point of time you got to decide whether you're going to be permanently a black hat or you're going to change to a white hat. So when time comes, you got to go with the interest, but don't prefer black hat. White hat is more better. Black hat is good for learning purposes. Once you learn, you need to know how to protect common people and innocent people out there. And then the next thing is have a community like this. So being into cybersecurity field, you need to constantly update you with new exploits and new shells. And there are a couple of new malwares around which you need to keep updating. And you can't be updated with just you sitting at a computer. You need to have your peers as well. You got to discuss with people. You got to share your thoughts. So try for the meetings as well. So that will give you an update into the industry. And small thought about the interviews nowadays. So all your studies and certifications, your projects, all tells about one thing: what are you interested in more? So if you're a designer, your project shows, yes, you're good with designing, that's what you love to do. And your grades are just a filters. If you got 20 people, they want just one people, they use the grades to filter you. Obviously, you guys know that. And relevant recruiters, most of them, when I attended the interviews for, in case of security roles, they know Swinburne Cybersecurity Club. They immediately ask me, you guys, I know that. We saw on the internet, I got the websites, your photos. You guys participate in CDFs? Oh, that's good. And they even know Jim and his beard. That's the most attractive one. They literally, one of the top professionals who was interviewing me, he asked me, "Oh, is the teacher with the beard? Is he still there? Oh, that guy. He's the one who runs the club." Literally, to be thankful, Jim is the one who's making us all stick together and keep us motivated. And the interviews have become more practical nowadays. Like one interview which I went for was first of 2 hours of hardcore technical interview for penetration testing. That was the role. And the interview was like, first we had a discussion for 1 hour, like common exploits, industry, just a talking. And then for half an hour they gave me a written test. Before he gave me the return test files, he just asked me which part of testing you're best at, infrastructure penetration testing or web application penetration testing. I told him I'm not that good at web applications, I'm good at infrastructure penetration testing. What he did was he gave the test sheets for the web application penetration testing to see how far I know in web application if I know less. So I filled in the sheets and he was happy with the result. And the next thing was he gave me the laptop with all the VMs and the network running there. He wanted me to attack and show him how I attack. And out of 6 exploits he wanted me to do, I did only 4 exploits and 2 of them I failed. One was an old Solaris exploit and he didn't care to even if I do it or not. So this is how the modern day interviews are in case of more practical tests are being conducted. So if you have selected your field, whether cybersecurity or web development or software engineering, any field you take, so be best at it, be technically sound more than theoretically, because that's what they're looking at. Because the industry is going to think like, if I recruit you, can I make a business with you? That's what they're going to, main point they're going to think about. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. And the next is now hack time. So Sybase, adaptive server enterprise. It's an extensively used in the financial world for banking, stock markets, and insurance companies. Wherever they need large DBMS databases, they use Sybase. So Sybase SQL Server was the first client server relational database in 1988. So the Sybase SQL Server, they were the first one to bring a relational database. That's the top point I should mention here. But in 1994, Microsoft copied Sybase source code and licensed it as Microsoft SQL Server. So as usual, Microsoft does it. Nobody can offend towards it. So whatever the attacks was possible on Sybase, or whatever the attacks were possible on Microsoft SQL Server, both were possible on each other. So if you find one exploit in Sybase, that exploit was possible on SQL Server, MS SQL Server. But once they copied the source code and licensed it, they took different streams. Sybase went into platform, interoperability, performance on high-end hardware, but MS SQL concentrated on ease of use, lower cost, integration with development environments. So two different databases they have become. Like their uses have become two different. But still their source code lies the same. So as usual, we take MS SQL as a prime target. And last week we had a meet, Brendan was talking about SQL injection. So same scenario here. We are trying to SQL inject into a Microsoft SQL Server database. So the first, just the quotation mark is just for testing and input sanitization. Like you have the username field there, you just put a quotation and just enter. If it's throwing up some errors, and then there is a possibility of an injection attack. So same way, if you type in quotes or 1 is equal to 1, dash dash, dash dash is the delimiter there, and then 1 is equal to 1 is nothing but you're giving a logic saying you don't need a password for logging in, that's it. So it's just a mere login check. And the next one is having. So if I put having 1 is equal to 1 and dash dash, having is a keyword in the SQL, it's a SQL command. What it does is it's like a checker. If Karthik is having 2,000 and above payroll, just to check, a condition checker is what it's having. So if I use having without the column name or table name, it's going to throw me an error saying, oh, you didn't use this column name and this table name. So it's going to be throwing the error saying, just giving the exact table name and the column name. So, and once I get the first table name and the first column name, the database can be huge. It can have many columns, one table and many columns. So when I get the first column name, what I'll do is I'll put the table name, the first column name, and then put having again, and then a group by clause. This clause is nothing but it merges different tables and compares the having condition with them. So in order to compare two columns, you use a group by clause, and in that, to check a condition, you use a having clause. Okay. So using this one, it's going to throw me the second column's name as an error. So same way, I can enumerate the whole database, like column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So that I've got a whole structure of the database now. But the one thing that is missing is what is a column's data type? Is it a varchar element? Is it an integer or star? So that here I'm going to use the sum statement. So what it's going to do is I'm going to put the column names and tell it to sum. So it is going to throw me an error. It's an alphabet. I can't do a sum. So based on the error, I can understand that this column is having a varchar type. So is it an integer or varchar? So I enumerate the whole database there. So once I've enumerated the database, we've got all the information we need. We know the table name, we know the column name, we know the data types in the columns. So once we do that, imagine Sybase being the database for these stock exchanges. I can insert a data into it for a particular company, being a stock, showing its stock high, or I can delete an entry for a particular company. I can vary the stock market there. So this is one vulnerability where a SQL injection can compromise a database. But can I go further to compromise a whole server? That's a question. So it is because of the stored procedures in MS SQL. What is a stored procedures? To keep it simple, I don't want to tell you some lengthy definitions of stuff. Storage procedures is nothing but a set of commands that you issue one command and all these set of commands are being completed, like a shell. That's all a stored procedures. And extended stored procedures is nothing but these are used for the database server to communicate with the operating system. They use these extended stored procedures internally. So those are extended stored procedures, and stored procedures are just basic procedures like you communicate with the database. Extended stored procedures, you communicate with the operating system there. So for example, here we can see a XP command shell IP config. That XP denotes an extended stored procedure. So it is going to help me spawn a shell, command shell, and enter the command IP config. So that's an extended stored procedure. It allows me to communicate with the operating system. Actually, it was created for the database to communicate with the operating system. But once there is an SQL injection, even we can communicate with the operating system there. So, and the SP in the starting of the second line denotes the stored procedure. A stored procedure is nothing but a simple communication with the database. Example, in the last line, make web task. So I can say, dump the whole database, put it into an HTML file where I can publicly access, say an images folder. So images folders in a websites are publicly accessible. So I can dump the whole database and put it in an image folder. So this is what the stored procedures and extended procedures are. So now we'll see how about we can use whatever we learned now in case of exploiting it. I've got a demo video here. Okay. So the attack starts from very first, like just a ping. That's a vulnerable machine which runs an MS SQL server. So I'm able to ping. Next is my nmap. Just keeping it simple, just a version detection I'm trying to do on the on the device. So it's going to take a long while. I'll just pass it. I'll use T4. Still not. I have bad internet connection. Don't worry. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we can see that port 80 is open and IIS is having some login screen and everything. So browse to everything. So we've got a login screen. So as per the slide, for our initial check would be just with the iterations. So we got an error stating so-and-so database. Not about the database, so just common error saying one table customer password is true. And then having 1 is equal to 1. So once I put the having here, so it's got the telling me that this is a table name, table customer, and dot customer ID is the column name there. So I've got the table name, I've got the first column information. So the next, I'm gonna keep on increasing the script. So I'm using the group by class and having 1 is equal to 1 and dash dash. Dash dash is nothing but a delimiter saying that my command has ended. So I'm going to use this one. So till now we have got the table name and the first column name. So I'm going to use this one. So now I've got the earlier, the first column name was customer ID. This is the second column name. It's customer name. So I got the second column name. So slowly I enumerate the whole database like this. Now I'm going to add this into my previous lines of code. So now I've got the next column, customer password. Okay, so one by one. So next code is going to be group by table, customer ID, customer name, customer password. So I'm just enumerating how many columns the database has got. So we till now reached 3 column names. So next is customer account, the 4th column name. So I'm going to still extend my code there. So adding the 4th column information. And this time it comes up as access denied. And either of the two things should be happening. One, I might have been like detected or something, but this VM doesn't have this software. Next is I must have enumerated all the columns must have been enumerated. So now I must start enumerating the columns data types like varchar or integer, because then only I can insert or delete into the database. So this code is nothing but, again, a dash and a union, sum, and just this time I just need every column's type. That's all I need. So I'm going to put the table name and column name, and then from the table name again, and then the delimiters. So now I got the information saying it's a varchar data type. Once again, show you again. Here you guys are able to see that. Okay. So you can see here the error states it's a varchar type of data. So the first column is a varchar data type. So slowly I can enumerate the same way the 4 columns and the 4 data types. So once I enumerate it, I can insert into them. I'll skip until the 4 columns are enumerated. So the last one is as well varchar. Now, before I'm trying to insert into a database, I'm trying whether I can export the database with just the stored procedures command we just saw now, make web task. So I'm going to dump the database, put it into HTML, make it visible to everyone. That's it. And this is not a live machine, just a learning machine. It's a vulnerable machine, so it's not going to have a huge database. So my query is select star from table customers. So select star, nothing but show me the entire thing. That's it. And I'm putting into the www root directory. So now I'm going to go to that HTML page, dump.html, and there I've got the whole database. So where these are its secret passwords. Okay.
Did you practice a few times?
So now we know the whole database. Can we try inserting it to the database? We'll give it a shot. So The next query is going to be, oh, 1 is equal to 1, insert into the table name and values. Doesn't have any. So the customer ID, customer name, customer password, and customer account. So those are the 4 columns. So once I do the script, set welcome, now I'm going to try the passwords, user account I created just now, and it said welcome. So I'm one among the database, so I can come in anytime, that's it. So, now the next part of the video is going to be like, we're going to compromise the server. So, apart from, we've compromised the database, but we might have to take control of the server. So that's what Jim was talking about, the reverse shell. So I'm going to enable a reverse shell connecting back to me. So I'm using the extended stored procedures, which talks to the operating system there. And just to testing purposes, I used ipconfig, so that whether I'm able to see the internal IP address of the server. And in case if I wanted the output to be redirected, this is just an output redirection to dump.html web page. So here, if I browse through it, sorry, maybe I can leave this first. Yeah, this thing is to be noted down here, master. What Sybase came up with technique, they don't want to the users who doesn't have privileges to run these command extended stored procedures. So they did a security mechanism of only the administrators to be run. But the communication for the administrator was just this code, master dot dot. So if I use a master dot dot, I'm the administrator. So just a very flawed security mechanism. So that's why I forgot the master, so I was not able to execute the command there. That's internal IP, that's the gateway address, and I've got every detail. So now, but still I want to get into the server. That's all I want, ultimate need. So but before that, as Jim was talking earlier, I need to transfer the exe on the other side. Yeah? I can send a spam email, or I need to send the exe to the victim somehow. So here, since we are in the local LAN, the VM and my computer are in the local LAN, I'm enabling TFTP server on my computer, yeah, on port 69. Just checking whether the TFTP is switched on the right port. Yep, it's running. And now the folder /root/tftp has got a couple of shells. So here I've got my own encoded shell, but the noded one is the nc.exe, that's a netcat with Jim was talking about. So I'm going to transfer this file to this server and then issue a command to connect back to me. It's a reverse shell, and I'm going to conquer the server. So Microsoft comes up with a command line version of TFTP. And TFTP get this IP address and get this file will tell Microsoft to get the file from the DHCP server from the desired IP address. So I'm just checking my IP. So TFTP I 192.168.10.187 and get, I'm sorry, okay, get netnc.exe, that is my netcat file. And I'm just changing from HTML to text. It's more easy to read, so the IP address was going there, formatting. So now, okay. Assuming that the file has been transferred, I'm going to issue the reverse shell command to that system to connect back to me. And I'm actually checking whether I've got the netcat transferred into. So dir command lists the current directory in Windows. So the output of the command is being redirected to dump.txt. So I've got a whole list of files from the system32 folder. Now I'm just checking whether my file is inside. There you go, nc.exe. Now I'm telling netcat to connect back to me, and I'm going to put my IP address and a specific port 187, and the port number here is 555. So actually the victim is connecting back to me, talking about the reverse shell. So, and it is giving me the cmd.exe command. That's a handler. So now I open the listener here in port 545 in my computer. So I'm gonna wait for a show now. So I'm gonna go issue there again. I just got confused with the Windows, and there you go. That's it. Windows NT, System32, who am I, NT, authority system. And then IP config, that's the system's IP address. That's it. They're into the system. Access right. And any more questions?
I don't know, it's beautiful.
The one thing I will say, guys, you noticed in that pad session that Kathy cut up as you was doing that. It's done for two things. Keep track of the commands you've issued, because you might forget them. And if you need to get back in, you've got a list of commands you work through. Second, if you're doing an investigation or a test, I want to see what you run. So generally, the big organisations will have screen recording on a laptop you're using to break in. But having a notepad of commands makes it easy for next time, because I'm looking through a repeatable process, you don't have to type that out again. You're saving yourself time. And any lazy network admin will tell you, if you've got something automated or something written down, you can follow step by step, it's more efficient.
And you don't get paid unless you can produce a report showing how you did
You
it.
can do the same with access.
And make sure you get paid first, or at least half beforehand. There's a story of a company out there, there's a few of them who have done this. They'll do a full-on security audit. So that also means perimeter security. So see how far in the building they can get. Now in America, in the data centers, most of them have leakage detectors on the IP door, meaning being if there's a hole in the roof and rain's getting in, it'll disarm the door. There's a story of one of them who got as far as the conference room door. Wonder if there's a leakage detector. He tested that theory by taking a leak. Door unlocked, sure enough, door unlocked, door open, access granted. However, because of his methods of breaking in, they decided not to pay him. So you want to at least get some money for the work beforehand, so you're not wasting your time in vain.
So you can do the same attacks with SQL Ninja and Metasploit, but doing it more manual, you learn more, and it's more kind of thing. You run the automated tools, and it gets you the shell, and nothing much interesting. So try and do manual hacking. Thank you.
You understand the process, otherwise you just some kid in front of a laptop who knows how to use the tool.
And you'll get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, you're less
You will
likely
get
to be
yourself
caught
in
if you
trouble
do it.
if you don't understand what you're doing. Because like you run an automated tool, some of those automated tools go for jugular straight away and will kill your client.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, pretty much. I know in a few of the challenges that I've done, I launched automated attacks against the service that I was targeting. It destroyed the service and destroyed the challenge for a while. Sorry, Gary. It was the sysadmin on the challenge that I was working on at the time, and yeah, as you said, they have a reset button for a reason. But in real life, you don't get a reset button, so that was your before you do a security yeah. I'll let you get out of how it was coming.
I think that draws this meeting towards your question.
I think we've had it's been good. Oh, thanks everybody. We'll have a nice